welcome to eMigos podcast. My name is Boomstick.
I'm Quantum.
I'm Gandyman.
And this week we're going to look at, it's probably going to sound pretty familiar for our listeners of our first podcast, but we're going to talk about the Xbox One. What do y'all guys think about the Redactions?
Well, first off, was it really us so we can say we were wrong, or is it Sony Microsoft realizing that they were wrong?
It's all them. It's not us. It's never us. Them.
No, never admit you're wrong. Okay. Except when you're Microsoft, you have to admit it because it's in public.
You have to go by
Public reaction.
well, that, but I mean, you have to also go by histories. If history's any indication that there was nothing they were going to do, so they're set in their ways. They're going to make whatever product they want, and then everybody threw a fit, and it was pretty much everybody just doing the usual fits, and it's probably all going to be futile. And then they're like, "Oh, you don't like it? Well, here, let's fix it, and let's just, you have to look at it as a wait." You kind of think of maybe what else they have up their sleeve if they're.
It's almost like a cafeteria style food mentality. You're going to eat it and you're going to like it.
You know what
you're going to get.
You know what I thought was hilarious though? How they're like, we know it's going to be a digital future, but hey, you're the gamers, so we're going to do it the way you want.
Oh, but how 1 week everything is, this is a fundamental core part of our design platform, and we're upping our server load because this is a necessary proponent. Each decision is necessary. And then wake up one day and, oh, wait. Deleted, it's basically, it reminded me of like the Willy Wonka, what he said, strike that, delete it or whatever, and go back and change everything. It was crazy to me. It was crazy.
Like Jim Carrey.
What?
Deleted.
Deleted.
Something like that.
Well, you have to look at it as a
strike that, reverse it. That's what I was looking for.
You have to look at it as a company, though. Is it actually bad that they went back on their stuff? I mean, it's good.
Yes.
It's good for everybody, but you got to think of yourself as like the ultimate authority. You kind of lost a little bit of
credibility.
If you like, well, this is great. Just trust us, guys. This is the way of the future. This is the way it's going to all work out in the end. And then you're like, well, if you guys don't like it, we won't do it.
I'm sorry.
It reminds me kind of like a year or two ago of Operation or Occupy Wall Street. The people got.
I was really trying to figure out how you were going to compare this to like the kids' board game Operation.
I was
like, where's he going with this? Where's he going?
It's kind of like when those
trying to take out
days.
the bread basket. And
Oh well,
guess we have to fix it.
Well, it's kind of like the people got out and they said something. They really didn't get all that much done, but it seems like a few angry people on the internet talk about how terrible Microsoft is with their decisions, and all of a sudden everything changes. But the post-announcement, it wasn't an E3, but post-announcement surveys were like 80% negative against the decision. I think we might have said that last time, but
no, we did the Sony stock thing.
Sony stock, yeah, but it was just overwhelming public reaction that these were terrible decisions. And so it does speak of something that they actually seem to have listened.
Why didn't they listen to, beforehand? Because I'm sure they consulted. They had think tanks of, well, what should we do? What should we do for our next system? And
okay, in a perfect world,
that's what they should have
No,
done.
but think about it. In a perfect world, there was nothing wrong with the decisions that they made. Problem is, we don't live in that perfect online atmosphere that they're setting it up as. That's why it all had to go.
Because their core people that buy their system don't live in a always online.
I would say that their core do. But the problem is that core is not as big of a percentage as what they want. And if you're only catering to that percentage of your audience, then you are limiting you're limiting your consumer base. And so it was a terrible decision, but
kind of like the whole we've got the Xbox One, but hey, we just redesigned the Xbox 360 to look just like it. So here you go. Yeah. Here's your consolation prize for not getting Xbox One.
Well, and then the quotes from, Don Matrick saying, then of course this is before they reversed it, but if you're looking for a console that isn't always online, we have one. It's called the Xbox 360. It's like, and you still have a job? When you talk to, I don't know, maybe just terrible PR.
It seems like a lot of things they say are just kind of talking down to everybody.
Well, it's like, hey, we're big bad Microsoft. Screw you if you don't like us, pretty much.
Yeah,
you want to put it plain and simple.
Microsoft
don't like us with Microsoft.
Yeah,
get used to it.
Maybe a little bit less come at me, bro.
With that baby
with
smoking
their employees.
a cigarette, whatever.
But as far as the redactions, I mean, a lot of it was the big parts. They haven't been clear on some of the smaller details of what they're doing away with some of these changes, but the big ones was the always online requirement
for me.
That's huge. And then also, I believe they've changed some on the used game policies, which, I mean, I would talk to people that work at GameStop, and they wouldn't quite, just tell me that, oh, this is going to be terrible for us, but you could very much tell that the decisions they were making were going to be terrible hurdles for
Are you saying you could see it in their eyes?
GameStop. I could see it in their eyes. Yeah, I could see it. Hello. Anyways,
but that they're promoting Xbox One, but yet it's like a kick in the the teeth of their business.
Yeah.
Because that's their key component, selling used games, and they were going to take that away from them.
Oh yeah, but I mean, basically, disc games were just an afterthought at that point. Whenever anything could be bought digitally, but they're doing away with some of these things now. I mean, I still think you're going to have to install the game. That's not going to change anything. But
I wouldn't mind that, really. As long as you could delete it, later.
As long as you could delete it later and then resell it or gift it or any of those things. So, I mean, they're good decisions that they made, but they shouldn't be decisions that had to have been made. These should have just been features of the console day one. I think that announcement day would have been completely different. And of course, we wouldn't be talking about this now. But price point. Okay, that is one thing we need to talk about. It's a big hurdle. You've got 2 brand new systems, one for $400 minus a camera, $500 for the Xbox One with the camera. I guess let me clarify that. PS4 without a camera, $400. Xbox One with the Kinect required, $500.
And that's still required.
It's still
not an
required.
option.
Yeah, it's not an option. And it has to always be connected.
Truthfully, I have both of them pre-ordered on Amazon. I mean, just listen.
You have $900?
No, listen. Just for the pure fact of, if I do have the money, I will be able to get them day one.
So we said they're trashed Xbox One first episode. Now we're talking about how they might be coming back, and then you immediately jump back on the bandwagon.
He's had it pre-ordered the whole time.
No, I was just saying.
I want to be out there and just let everybody know that I'm a phony. And I'm not
No, I said I pre-ordered it. I didn't say I bought it.
Is this confession? No.
Yeah, well, we all know that's what you do at GameStop anyway. You just put $5 down on a game, get a free poster, and then move it over.
So what? So what? What is this, bag on Gandyman day?
No.
I mean, seriously now.
But as far as the math of it, though, I mean, $900, that's a lot to ask out of people. So it really does come down to the choice, $400 or $500.
I would get a PS4.
PS4.
I had a choice.
And honestly, I mean, we're going to talk about Last of Us in just a little bit, but with the first-party games that Sony puts out, that is putting a lot on Halo's shoulders. And when you're already more than 5 games, but when you're going into your 5th main series game, I mean, there's got to be some other games.
Halo has become like Xbox's like Mario. How Mario is the Nintendo, Halo has become for Xbox. There's like no other title that has surpassed.
Well, I mean, they're trying to come out for Xbox One. They're Titanfall. That's one of them that's going to be exclusive.
It is an exclusive, but it's not a first-party exclusive. And at any point, it could jump. I mean, it's
after their little contract runs out.
Well, I mean, the original Xbox did this with some games that jumped later. I don't know about as far as jumping from. I may want to pull that back. I know that they had some games on there that they marketed as only on Xbox when it first came out.
Mass Effect.
And then they jumped. Well, Mass Effect is one for 360. Yeah, that's a good example.
But now you can get it on.
They can get it on any PC even, I think, too. So I mean, you can get it on.
I think it was originally on PC and Xbox 360.
Yeah, because Microsoft.
Well, it makes sense for Microsoft to have PC and a Xbox version.
I mean, just like Titanfall is.
And they did that. They did that with the original Halo, and I believe maybe even Halo 2.
Halo 2's on PC.
PC 2.
I have it. I think
it was like a. I may be wrong. I may have got a different one, but from what I could tell, it was like exclusively for like Vista. It was like optimized for Vista.
Just Vista.
I got what it was is I didn't buy. I got the Halo 2 PC game from a friend for my birthday, and I took it home. I didn't have Vista at the time, and that was before I realized what I would possibly have gotten myself into with Vista. But but I never could get it to work. I think that was more of my graphics card and all that. But at the time, but.
Well, as far as the price point goes, I've heard it said that if you have two products, they do have their differences, but two products, you have one for $400, you have one for $500. It's not even a decision at that point for most consumers. They're gonna get the cheaper one because for the most part, people are just there to. I mean, we can talk about the strengths of consoles, we can talk about exclusives, we can talk about all those things, but when it comes down to it, basically, it's just people are paying for a distraction, and if they can get it for cheap, they're going to get it for cheaper. So I think that's going to play into it. Now, the future of the PlayStation Eye, as far as it being integral to the PlayStation 4, their version of the Kinect, that's still up in the air, and so that'll be interesting to see because I know that they've into their core controller, they have placed the Move components. You remember that when they announced the PlayStation 4, they had the lights on the controller. And so I know that that's somehow part of the experience of the PlayStation 4, but with the camera being taken out for price differences to lower the price, it'll be interesting to see what actually happens with the camera in the future.
Well, it's sad you have to think about. In order to make it seem so cheap, you don't realize that they're pulling a lot of stuff out from under it, like with the accessories and things that are being released with the Xbox. So, if you got to think about it, you got to go to Xbox's defense, and that they have all that when you get your console, as opposed to
piecemealing it later.
Yeah, instead of piecemealing it later, which is actually typically a Microsoft thing to do.
Microsoft Move, yeah, that's pretty funny.
Right. This made me remember from the actual Xbox One. Where it wouldn't even play DVDs unless you bought something that plugged into the control port and everything.
Yeah,
which
I had one.
Was just like kind of an access thing. Like if it had the capability to read it.
It was a drive. It could read it. It was just that was mainly an IR sensor for the remote, but there was no reason why they couldn't have programmed that into the controller in the first place.
So I didn't have my Xbox long enough to get one of those. Somebody stole it. So
yeah. Well, any other points on the Xbox before we move on?
Not on the Xbox One specifically, but how do you think it relates to like the big three? And at this point, it's kind of just the big two. Nintendo's not really doing much on that field. Didn't even post it up in E3, but
they had a little small press conference.
It was a private one though, and it wasn't anything. They didn't have any
big
big releases
showy about it. Yeah,
I'll tell you the one big game for them. It hadn't came out yet.
We guess Mario Brothers.
No, well, they're actually working on, I think, a Super Smash Bros. Melee.
They're working on a new Smash Brothers. Yeah, they will. I think they've said that they actually have shown something on it. There's going to be two versions. There's going to be a 3DS version. There's going to be a Wii U version. They haven't named them yet, but they've shown footage of them, and of course they look good. Of course they look fun. It's kind of like Mario, like we talked about. That is one of their new franchises that, it doesn't matter if they do it on the high-tech stuff or if they do it on the low-tech stuff. If they can make it work, it's going to be fun because the gameplay of it's fun. So there's not a whole lot they can do to mess that up. But
well, the main thing I was talking about is, like, what do you think it does for the big console companies when you have stuff like Steam coming out with the Steam box and you have the Ouya coming out, more independent releases.
Ouya actually got released the 26th.
Yeah, and they've been selling pretty well.
It's sold out on Amazon, actually.
Well, but they're in a different playing field. Again, it's playing more for like Android casual things. Steambox, we still really don't know exactly what all it's going to be.
It's been talked about for
a long time. Yeah,
years.
I don't think that they're going to be serious contenders because they're not traditional consoles, but I think they'll grab core gamers that want to try something different.
Ouya has some AAA titles.
Yeah, but I mean, really, are you going to want to play
Final Fantasy I can play it on my?
Well, yeah, but you can play it on your tablet or It remains to be seen, but
I think it's all about security, though. It's which one you want, new and exciting, or do you want like the security behind traditional and big companies that can stand behind stuff? With new things coming out, you don't know what you're going to be able to do.
If the Ouya picks up, it's going to be. If it does catch on with the general public, it'll be sort of like a Wii sensation where it's breaking records and it's selling like hotcakes all the way over here, not really competing with what we traditionally think of as next iteration gaming consoles.
I think if they come out with one pretty soon, like for the NVIDIA Tegra 4, I think that they'll have a lot more processing capabilities and stuff like that. So.
Well, the Nintendo came out, it was 8-bit, and then there's Super Nintendo and Sega, and it was 16-bit, and then PlayStation was 32, and the Saturn, and and then the Nintendo 64, and each console generation as I was growing up was, it doubled, and so if you watch the progression of that, PlayStation, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox are head-to-head in that race. Wii U, I don't even consider them a contender in it. They're off here in a different direction because they're not pushing limits.
I think they have pretty much the same insides. Like the
Similar.
same, pretty similar because they're both made by AMD for one.
Yeah.
So, of course, they're going to be sort of similar.
And developers are loving it probably because it'll make it a lot easier for them.
Yeah, to make games for both consoles.
Well, there's a certain point where I don't think you're going to be able to see. It's not going to be like going from
a huge leap,
8-bit to N64. It's
that we could talk an hour on that. I believe that when we look at the leap. Do y'all want to talk any more about Xbox? Because this could lead right into our next point about The Last of Us. The Last of Us, the game.
Let's just talk about that one.
Oh wow! Wow. As far as graphics go, this generation, some of the best character models, some of the best environments. There was a few little graphical glitches that come up. Nothing that was major.
Something I noticed.
It was pushing it. It was pushing the limits of the current
Something I noticed about glitches, really, before we start talking about the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Do you notice how, the wall and the seat, the floor didn't always meet? There's always, that's one thing I noticed that was big for me.
When you have, an inventory system of all, when items are on the ground, they glow, and then you swim across great distances, and you say, oh, what is that thing over there? And it just turns out where it's a spot where the wall and floor didn't meet.
I never tried
that.
That happened
a few times. That one didn't ever happen to me.
I didn't know you could swim great distances in that game. It wasn't a lot of swimming.
I did. My Joel was very acrobatic.
Are you talking about whenever he was swimming by the dam?
Well, not in the sewers and things. That happened a lot with me, just because there's a greater contrast of lighter objects and darker objects.
Because you're down there, yeah.
But
what do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about that first? The glitches or the beauty?
We'll talk about what could have been done better a little bit later. But first off, the prologue, just from my opinion of it, was one of the most compelling game starting moments of any game I've ever played. I was hooked, and I guess since we're not going to get into the ending today, but we'll still have spoilers.
Played it.
I'll just
you haven't finished it.
Yeah. Well, I'm like 83% done. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. Quantum, Gandyman, finished the game. Boomstick have not.
Yeah, everybody dies.
I'm trying.
Everybody dies.
Everybody dies.
Don't listen to them because they're just trying to throw
In the
me
game,
off. And you.
That's it.
But as far as spoilers go, when you get to the prologue, just if you want to stop listening now, you can. But that prologue will hook you. It is perfect.
But don't stop.
But don't stop listening, please.
See, I love the prologue. I thought it was genius in the fact that the way they handled it, your introduction into the universe of the game, is they let you you start out the innocence of a child, and they don't give you any instructions.
None.
Nothing. You just see a little bit of backstory with the little girl who you play and her dad, having a little interaction.
Well, and not Ellie. Not Ellie.
No.
Yeah.
No, not Ellie. Sam.
Was that Sam?
Yeah, Sam's
I'm going to get the names, yeah.
But, you start out the bewilderment of a child. You walk around the house, no instructions, just wondering where your dad is. Go find your dad. And you see, the soft glow of a television. You go in there and you see the news reports and stuff blowing up, and you look outside and you see explosions. So now you're even more, it's building anxiety. And you go downstairs and you finally find your dad. Is it Sarah?
I think it's Sarah.
I thought it was Sam.
I thought it was.
No,
Are you sure?
I thought it was Sam.
Sam was the boy. Henry and Sam.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Sarah,
That's where I'm
Sarah,
getting
Sarah,
Sam.
Sarah's the daughter.
That's where I'm getting Sam. My bad.
We forgive you once.
Right? You only get one.
You only get one.
But yeah, but that was, I think, was the genius of it, is
Building the anticipation.
building anticipation. They don't tell you all. You don't get the big line of text at the beginning. You know, in a world, in a galaxy far, far away.
The simplest prompt that you get in the game. Well, no, I can't say that. There are, when you get close for melee encounters and grabs and things, they pop up. But those things are unobtrusive. You see an icon with the words by it every once in a while. There is never an overlay of text. Nothing really gets in the way. When you get to an interactive object, there's a triangle, button that pops up. It keeps you in the experience, I guess.
Even then, they just they give you hints at what you're supposed to do just by them talking it out, trying to figure it out themselves.
It's a little sound too. It always gives you a little hint.
Little chime thing, or the twinkle, I guess you call it. I don't know.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking
Twinkle,
about. You press in on the left thumbstick, and you'll look at something that you need to look at.
It'll draw your attention to.
And if you have too much trouble with something, it'll pop up again like with a hint, and it might say something just to kind of clarify, but not enough to just spell it out for you. It's just leading you along a little bit.
Yeah, just letting you figure it out, just as the people would.
I thought something was really funny was, the progression of the game, Ellie trying to learn how to whistle. That was pretty funny. Because if you sit there long enough, she'd start talking some more.
Yeah, she was, that and, the little jokes about Joel singing and things like that. But as far as, let's get back to the prologue. What all did you really respond to? I mean, other than just a girl learning how to play the game as Sarah, what else did you respond to in it?
Well, I don't know. It's just kind of Friday. It wasn't this far away. There's something happening. It's like it's happening right here in your house.
Well, I'll tell you something it reminded me of. Have you ever played the Walking Dead from Telltale Games?
Telltale. It was very,
that first opening sequence was almost like
very
that.
similar. I've got
I just thought of that.
A couple friends that live in San Antonio, and I was just there in February with them. I was
Shout
actually
out,
talking with one of them. Yeah, we'll give them a shout
Shout
out.
out to my homeboy.
But what's really crazy is that the game starts out by there's a sign as you're driving, like turn left, I think, to Austin, turn right to San Marcos. I mean, it's like right there, somewhere in the area, is where the game starts in Texas, and it just, I don't know, that it's all over the place. United States, the game is. Let's see, Boston and Pittsburgh and. Then there's some Colorado and Salt Lake City, and then they went to they didn't ever specify. I think they made up the college, but I can't remember what college it was.
East Colorado University.
I don't know if that was real or not, but
East Colorado State University, I think is what it was.
But
I'm sure there's something iteration of that actually.
But it all felt so tangible. I mean, I guess that would go more into the atmosphere, but
it was real.
They kicked the game off, and it just felt real. And of course, at that point, nothing was decayed, and so it really felt real. But then later, everything felt so familiar about the game.
It didn't feel like a game.
Honestly, it didn't. I mean, I know everybody's crazy about The Walking Dead, the TV show, and all that.
This is sort of like it, but
better.
I mean, it's sort of like. That's why I said the opening sequence of the game a little bit reminded me of The Walking Dead, the Telltale game, which has nothing to do with the
TV show. Yeah.
You have to look at also our viewpoints too. Like, can you imagine or remember playing like games like on the original Xbox and things like, just get me past these cutscenes. I just want to play. And now
I wanted more
cutscenes.
We basically have like playable movies now.
Yeah.
And
I guarantee you, somebody on YouTube.
They already have
put
6.5 hour cut.
Together.
They have. I saw that on the internet. Somebody assembled gameplay footage and the
like a mini movie
into a 6.5 hour movie of it. Yeah, you can sit and watch The Last of Us.
Something that reminded me of that now is Alan Wake. They have like a little mini movie.
Well, whoever did this also did the Uncharted games, which I mean, of course, are also Naughty Dog. They put them all together and made a movie out of it. A little bit shorter than 6.5 hours, but. I don't know why they were long on this one.
I really need to finish the Uncharted 3. I really do.
But as far as the prologue goes, I think that the sheer terror of the event, like it starts off so calm and serene, when we're talking
Dad's
about you
coming
wake up,
home, she's excited.
she's excited, but she doesn't know what's going on, and you go down the stairs, and then all of a sudden, everything just goes crazy, busting in the house, and then getting in the truck with your uncle and driving down the road, driving into town.
The first zombie you see is someone as Sarah
You know,
said,
yeah.
like, I just saw him this morning.
Yeah.
I mean, that opening scene almost seems like, her dad knew what was going on. Her dad and uncle kind of knew what was happening.
Well, they just
to
knew,
me.
like in the
Before
papers,
her.
they were just,
They probably knew
all they
before
knew was
her, but-
some people were sick.
Yeah.
When you see people in the hospital,
You don't think that it's going to be a zombie pandemic.
no one first word to go to zombies, and in the game they don't call them
They're
zombies.
not zombies.
They're
yeah.
not dead.
They're infected.
Well, and that was another thing I think that was really chilling about the game was the plausibility of the enemies. Anemones. No.
I live in anonymity.
Now the cordyceps. Of course, before the game, the Naughty Dog referenced. There is a fungus that it attacks ants, different insects around the world. It sets itself in, attacks the nervous system, and then causes them to get shakes and things like that. It takes over the nervous system, and then they break through their skull, and this fungus begins to grow in what's left of the body. And it's crazy to watch. They've got videos on YouTube. It's just crazy what this thing does. But basically, it takes the idea of the cordyceps, and instead of infecting insects, it spreads to humans. And it makes for some interesting, that's too small of a word, but interesting enemies.
It's kind of like that. Also, like what is that movie? Is it the Suffering? What is that movie?
Which one?
Crap. I can't remember the actor's name, but it's one where all the plants turn on people and everybody starts killing themselves.
Oh, The Happening.
Happening. That's right.
Shyamalan. Yeah.
That's what it reminds me
I didn't
of.
see it, but I remember. But the cordyceps. As far as the cordyceps go, I thought that was a really plausible way to introduce enemies. I thought that there was, as far
Let's
as
talk about the type of infected they have.
oh, you do the different types. Okay.
Well,
Since they don't actually call them zombies, and they're just infected, but there's
Well,
different versions of them.
there's the runners, and that one of them runners.
It's mainly delineating on how long they've been infected is what you actually.
Yes. Yeah.
They're
Because
runners, they're
you're
stalkers.
You're faster. You're more agile. You don't have so much growth, so
You can
you're
see.
newly infected. So you're a runner. You progress. It starts to break out of your head. You're a clicker, which because of the clicking sound, they don't really have mouths, so it's just.
They don't have eyes either.
Tongue's kind of clicking through.
They can't see you.
They're using echolocation like bats.
Yeah. And then, finally they just keep busting out. They become bloaters, and they're these huge tanks. And as far as from what I can speak of, I don't think that there was any other enemy types than basically those three, was there?
Bloaters,
Other
runners,
people.
clickers.
Well, I'm talking about the infected, but.
Because I keep going back and forth. I keep thinking that, and I keep thinking like Chargers and
Left 4
jockeys
Dead,
and
yeah. Yeah.
crossover. No,
Well, that would be awesome.
right.
But as far as we're talking about enemies, I mean, the infected, that was one type of enemy. I mean, personally, my opinion of it was that the best enemies in the game were the humans. Other humans, they call them raiders, or what would they? Hunters,
Scavengers.
Hunters.
Yeah.
It's the ones that hunt down tourists just to take their stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they roll up into Pittsburgh and into a huge trap.
I can't remember. Joel, he was a hunter at one time. He
Yeah.
even makes mention of that in the game.
Yeah, I mean, he has a past. I haven't finished the game yet, but I do know that much. He had a past.
Wasn't always pretty.
Wasn't always pretty. He did what he felt he had to do.
He just lost his daughter. What would you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, like where he has to have her actually give her gun for the first time, and she has to pick off guys and things like that. And he's like, just so you know, it was either him or me,
Mm-hmm.
kind of deal. It's like you have to know it's when it comes right down to it, it's either you want me to live or you want him to live. You can when they're fighting each other, there's no other way.
Well, there was a line in the game that was, I know we haven't really gotten to that part yet, but that was really chilling was the interactions between Joel and Ellie, and they chase her down to the cabin. You remember that? like she was riding on the horse, they chased her down.
Yeah.
It was like, you're not my daughter, and I'm not your dad. And that cut me.
That cut me deep.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say, like, that cut me in a way. Yes. It was the first time that really a game really got to me, maybe like a movie would or a TV show would.
I mean, her saying that to me, and this whole time, you start to care for her. Not just as a game, not just as we got to take care of her because she's the savior of humanity, but that she's almost like your daughter. You start to feel that way anyway because you had that interaction with her. Because she's about the same age your daughter was when all that happened.
Yeah.
So, she's a little older, I think.
What? A little. I think she's in her teens.
Sarah seemed a little young on the younger side.
Then maybe 12 or 13, but not much. I mean,
well, at least 14. So
not much. Yeah, I guess so. Preteen, more or less.
I think that's why he got that almost instant attachment to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's why he was so compelled to help her, and that's why he was so distant emotionally from her.
Well, he didn't want to help her. Tess made him. Tess is the one that made him do it.
Yeah, I mean, because it was just a job. Just a job to get her, smuggle her out of the city, so that she can, that she can get your job and get your guns back. And when all that went out the window of just survival.
Well, I
think we could probably talk about this whole The Last of Us probably for like an hour.
If
we really wanted to break it down.
But one thing about Tess, I didn't really connect with Tess. Didn't have much time to, but I didn't.
I liked her moment when she bit the dust.
Well, her
final moments of I thought the
before
acting
that
there was good.
I couldn't stand her.
Yeah, I thought the acting there was good, was solid.
I think that was part of it.
It made me feel like it was just like a relationship of convenience.
Well, yeah, that's what it was. I mean, they were together for no other reason than that. I mean, and we don't know the extent of their relationship. Really, it doesn't make it clear. I mean, was it a partnership? Was it fully romantic? I mean, I think there were feelings.
I think it was a little, or at least they had been romantic if they weren't anymore. Doesn't she kiss him when he comes back? I think she does.
I don't remember. I don't remember that. Maybe there was, but I don't remember. But as far as the characters go, favorite characters?
Well, I've already discussed this, so everyone knows. It's no surprise that my favorite character was Bill. Yes, it wasn't a main character.
Everybody else knows now, but they didn't know before.
Well, Bill was my favorite. I thought he was the most compelling, best.
You wish you would have saw more of him?
I do. I really do. I wish he kind of would have seen how having someone to interact with was a lot better than kind of going at it alone, and maybe I could just join them on the go.
Well,
but it goes back to what Tess and Joel discussed when they were first going to the warehouse, like the very beginning, when it was like, maybe we should get more people in so they would just slow us down.
Yeah. Do you think maybe, because now that I'm thinking about Bill kind of reminded me, like the show The Walking Dead?
Do I know the show The Walking Dead?
Well, pretty familiar. How far have you watched it in season 2?
I'll give you that one. I haven't got it super far. I think I got, I've watched it back up to when they had their big hiatus until February.
Did you watch where they went to that town and they found his friend he helped save in the first season? That part kind of reminded me of that because there's booby traps everywhere. You remember?
Yeah, but I'm trying to think his name.
You remember?
Whatever, I can't remember. I know the guy from the first episode.
Yeah, it's even in the comic book, his name. I don't remember. Yeah. Anyway, but it kind of reminded me of that. Maybe not Bill, because Bill was a little more upbeat than that guy. But beside the point.
Yeah, I loved Bill and Ellie's back and forth. I mean, it was a little on the.
Well, as the guy that played Bill, I instantly recognized him from TV shows and W. Earl Brown. I thought he was a great voice. Yeah. You remember him?
Yeah, I can't remember what shows now.
He was in Deadwood. Let's see what else he was.
He was like the lackey to.
He was
the guy that ran the saloon.
He was in There's Something About Mary. He was the brother at the first of the movie. Bring the Bane.
Was he? He was
Frank Baines. Yeah, he was Frank Baines.
Oh,
but yeah, But anyways,
That was his best acting.
That was his best acting ever.
Really,
Probably
my favorite
remember
movie
that
with him in it.
But no, he was a great character. I really liked. I know I'm not fully through that part yet, but I love the fact that
Your favorite character. That was
David.
David.
Leave it to Boomstick to pick the villain.
Awesome though.
Like, I want to eat your skin.
No, but okay, but he's setting. You're playing. I mean, he is Joel for a good part of the game. He is your Joel. You know, you're having to rely upon him. Well, not really rely so much upon him. He's helping you. He's like your wing guy or whatever.
You think you can trust him.
You think,
Because she starts to trust him.
Well, she starts to. I was going to say she didn't hand it over at all, but. He was so gentle. That's what really got me. He was such a gentle character.
I almost started to like him too.
I
as
know.
a character.
And then he flips the switch, and he's
flips the flip, and then he's got you.
Yeah, but I thought they did very well with him. And I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later. But as far as the language of the game goes, I know that's one thing I'm going to bring up later. But I don't know what all he says for the entirety of it. But he was so gentle voiced, and to be the one character that wasn't so profane in the game, but to be that evil was just really kind of shuddering a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you this.
I don't know what all he says. I haven't played it all.
I'll tell you this. He does shout.
He does shout. I'm sure he
I
probably
think he
says it.
used some words too. But
Well, everybody does in that game.
I
don't want to get to that yet. But.
I'm trying to think who my favorite character is. Really, I mean,
It's hard to pick.
If you don't have a favorite, though, I mean, if you can't get past how well they did Joel and Ellie. I mean,
I was gonna say probably Ellie. I mean, because look at the strength to go on.
She's 14 years old.
You know, to go
start to
on,
forget how old
and
she is, yeah.
she loses everything, and she practically gets dragged to wherever Ellie or wherever Joel and Tess are taking her.
yeah.
You know, because they're taking her to get their guns. You know, get their money so they can sell the guns. And so I think
She feels it. She starts out as a pawn.
yeah, but,
She's a piece, with a bargaining chip.
but I won't reveal nothing to you since you haven't beat it
We're
yet.
going to come back and talk about it all.
But I think Ellie would be my favorite, one of my favorite. I don't know if I can pick a favorite, but I think she'd be, a close contender with being.
Well,
favorite.
what about least favorite?
Least favorite character? I'd have to say
I've got
Tess.
mine. Tess would be like a really close second for me. What about you, Gandyman? Because I'm saving mine to see if anyone else thinks the way I do.
Well, I almost want to say like his brother, because
Tommy?
because he's kind of a douchebag.
Come on now.
I mean, I don't know what happened between them two after he lost his daughter, after Joel lost his daughter, but his brother turned to a douche. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
but
just saying.
Well, Tommy. I don't get where you're getting at with that. I thought that he was just kind of.
They just kind of
staying alive, but I don't think he was he was treacherous or.
the friction was there, but
the friction was probably there because Joel was wanting to do bad things and Tommy wasn't wanting to.
Well, I mean,
He
we
was
don't
actually
know
the good
the
guy.
full extent. I mean, I said if I had to,
Yeah.
he's possible contender for being a. But maybe, I mean, somebody you love to hate probably is David in the game.
Yeah.
Well, my least favorite was probably the only actually semi-reoccurring character in the game, and that would be Marlene, leader of the Fireflies.
Fireflies.
Oh, yeah.
Why didn't she
Well,
take her herself?
I can't go too far in it why I don't like her, just because
You don't want to spoil the ending.
I don't want to spoil.
I'm sure
Everybody
she'll come
dies.
Boomstick.
Oh, there you go. Everybody
Okay.
dies.
Okay.
Everybody dies. Let's go back to it. Everybody dies.
Favorite segment of the game?
The one that just immediately comes to mind is, once again, Billstown. I just thought that was a fun segment. Between
Was a
that,
lot of fun.
between that and the actual resort, getting to actually play as Ellie was a pretty nice touch.
I think there could have been more moments of Billstown. Just one more little side mission.
I mean, there's lots of little nooks and crannies where he's got traps and
I
all
think
that
there
kind of
could have
stuff.
been another one where you had to play as Ellie and kind of go through these
The
traps.
car part was really cool for Bill when you're trying to get the car started. You
Trying
have
to push it.
push, and then pop some zombies, and then push, and go a little further. And
You know how many times I died that last push?
last push, it wasn't too bad, but the main thing
Bill
at that
does
point
it.
is with your arsenal is that clickers will devastate you.
Yeah.
If you
Until
don't
you
have the
learn
right
the
weapons.
tricks.
Yeah, if you don't get
Because I
the
don't even remember if
supplement.
you had a shotgun at that point.
Yeah.
You did?
Yes, and they actually had a lots of ammo for the shotgun in that one. 'Cause I guess
That
they
one
just
part,
kind of knew
they
that.
just gave it to you, so you're learning it, I guess.
Yeah.
But that was a great portion. One of my favorite parts, every year I think Activision puts out Cabela's hunting games. They're terrible. I'm not this avid hunter,
I'll
but
tell you right now, I've never played any of them.
they're terrible. I've tried. They're terrible. I mean, they're
Just
not even
saying.
worth. They're not even worth the time. But usually
you've
the first
played 'em?
person. Yeah, I've played them. Yeah. They're not. I've never purchased them. But I'm not a hunter or anything. But it's always been kind of interesting. Is why hasn't games got that quite right yet? And
Because
Red Dead Redemption
the only
tried
people really interested in that would actually go out and do those
actually
activities.
they got yeah.
Well, here's
People
the
like
thing.
me are wanting to sit on a couch and do it.
One thing I noticed, looking at reviews on things, people bash the controls. I had no problem with them.
Yeah.
I had no problem with aiming. The bow was supposed to be a little challenging.
Well, but the hunting segment is what we're talking about with Ellie, and it's right there at the beginning of winter.
Is that your favorite segment? Is that what you're talking about?
It's noteworthy. I mean, it's full of favorite segments in that game.
We all like the game.
It's
obvious.
Yeah, if you haven't got that yet, we loved it. 11 out of 10. But the hunting segment, though, it just felt like it got it right from the tracking and just
Trying to sneak in, not
trying to
scared
sneak in on it. I mean, because let's see, Assassin's Creed 3, that was a big part of Assassin's Creed 3. Red Dead Redemption did it really well, hunting. And this was just like hunting one animal for one segment. This felt more real than probably any of the rest of
It
it.
brought one of the key survival components that
We
was
hadn't seen in this game until then.
Yeah, like when do they eat?
When do they eat? Yeah.
Yes, it's assumed that it's just in the cutscenes and stuff that they actually don't get to the eating portion.
When you
But-
think about survival, what's one weapon you would probably want that you could make reusable ammo?
Well, bow and arrow, yeah.
A bow. So to show that key component, of survival, pretty powerful.
Of course, leading into one of my favorite characters was David. I love that part.
Boo,
But,
no.
boo. What about you?
It was a
Favorite-
good
favorite
build.
part of your favorite level, favorite segment.
Favorite segment.
I know what your least favorite was. They're trying to start that generator up with the
Yeah.
bloater and all those.
You know,
guys.
I would say
Key card.
Yeah.
my favorite segment, even though it was hardest part and I died a bunch, was what was that guy and the little boy you ran into?
Was it Henry and Sam? Yeah, Henry and Sam.
Oh, that
That's
part right
interesting.
there where where
The wall separates.
Sam and Ellie are on the other side of the door.
Henry and Ellie, and Sam is the little boy. with you, right?
No, whenever you
Yeah, and they're on the other side.
and
It's
you
right
gotta
at the
kill
before
those
the end of it.
zombies.
Yeah.
I hated that part.
Yeah.
But it was pretty enjoyable when I actually got past it.
Yeah. I know
So-
what part you're talking about. That was pretty crazy because you pretty much had to empty your arsenal. You're throwing stuff over at this entrance.
You know,
so-and-so
I
at
finally
this entrance.
discovered.
I was at least.
I finally discovered though, about halfway through killing all of them, if you back up close enough to the door, you'll squeak through it. Like the little cutscene will start. So that's how I finally got past it.
I killed them all, but like one or two, and got to the door.
I
But-
kept getting those clickers kept like coming on each side of the door, and I couldn't. The other guy wasn't helping me out very much, so I was having to try to, watch my back and my front. So that's why I kept getting killed.
What do you think about the one in Billstown? I know I keep bringing up Billstown.
Which one are you
What do you
talking
think
about?
about the ending where everybody gets killed?
The one where you get booby trapped and have to sit like upside down and shoot off zombies.
That was good.
That was
good.
I mean, there was a little slow mo moments there too, wasn't there?
Well, but if you remember at that point, I think, well, I don't know at that point, but in that portion, all you had was a pistol, and you have got a clicker at the end of that, or in the middle of it, running straight at you. It's hard to take down a clicker with a pistol.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the first maybe second shot, he does
like 2 or 3
does a little
shots at
knockback.
least. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean does a little knockback, but past that, you can just unload the pistol and he just keeps coming at you at the same rate. So it's like you got to get him down.
You got to make sure you hit him in the head those both times.
And it needs to be far enough away. Yeah, it was a little tough to get it down.
I gotta say that might have been the only one I didn't die on at all. That part right there.
Really? I died like 3 or 4 times
Yeah,
at least.
I'm surprised I didn't. I'm surprised that I really am.
Well, the one thing that I did a good deal in the game, I know that's why it's taking me a little bit longer. I'm trying to get all the secrets, trying to get all the soak it all in.
I don't think you can get all the secrets the first go.
I don't know if you can either, but I've really tried. But I know I won't get them all, but I guarantee I've got a good majority. But soaking up the atmosphere. I mean, if you could, I know it sounds terrible, but if you could smell this game, oh gosh, it'd make you sick. But of course, it's that's part of the infection. But the mold that's all over the walls. I mean, it's terrible stuff to look
and
at.
The spores, and all that.
But the degree that Naughty Dog went to make this feel real, like you're playing it, you feel this game, you feel the environment, and that's one thing I haven't. I mean, when you get all these, corridor shooters where you're going through and it's all sci-fi and it's not plausible. Like I think I was mentioning this. I can't remember who I was mentioning this to. Maybe one of y'all. Like Dead Space. I think I told you, Gandyman. Dead Space was a great game.
I never played it.
It was a great game, but it was tense. I mean, it's been a while back. I haven't played the second or the third one, but Dead Space was great. But it was always at arm's length because it was sci-fi. It was pure sci-fi. It was a place I'd never been before. I'll never be. So it was a good game, but there wasn't that connection. These houses look like places I've been before. These houses look like everything that's around me. And so when you're fighting these enemies in it, and that the whole game is in that American setting, this, I would say modern day, but in the future, but just decayed present more or less. It's just haunting. I mean, from time to time, I would just stop and I would just tilt the thumbstick and just rotate around and just soak it all in because it's just art direction pushed to the max.
It's that, and you see like the actual urgency in it. You see like food still on the table.
Yeah, people are just done. Yeah,
there was just like no notice. It's not people just got all packed up and everybody left and it didn't work out. It's you were in your house and like some infected walks in and starts causing havoc, and you don't.
The watch. Remember the watch? The watch was stopped, and so basically that's what it is. It's like life just stopped for everybody. I mean, I guess kind of a metaphor for the game, but he gets the watch, and then all this stuff happens. But yeah, it was crazy.
I mean you have that. You have that, and
you see the suitcases in people's rooms just half packed. Or not, not even. They're just laying on the bed,
opened up. Yeah.
Yeah. Not only that, I mean, you have like the kind of secret war between the populace and the military. Yeah. I mean, you have stuff written on the walls, like soldiers hanging from nooses and stuff. Infected didn't do that. I mean, it's people. Like you just see, like when chaos happens and you have the apocalypse, it's like the first thing people want to do is try to gain dominion over everyone else.
I mean, I know we weren't going to talk about this, but this may be something we want to talk about in a later podcast if everybody watches it. But I kind of see some of those things maybe around the road for that show that just started, Under the Dome on CBS.
I wanted to watch that.
You didn't watch it?
I didn't.
Man, I tell you, I haven't got rid of it. You'll have to catch up on it.
I think it's going to be on Amazon Instant.
I think you can probably watch it, but it starts out very well. I don't know where it's going to go. I haven't read the book. I think it deviates some, but it looks very good. But yeah, as far as those ideas of power concentrating amongst the people naturally in a bad situation and those type of things, I can see that in that show. But yes, definitely in the game. Definitely. I know we talked about it a minute ago, but humans versus infected. As far as gameplay goes, what was more fun to y'all? Playing against infected or playing against humans? Because they're different, vastly different.
I think, like, mostly wise, like, it just, the infected, of course, are going to be more gripping, but I thought mechanics and everything, the more realism, I think it was a better human job, because when I get, say, my bow and arrow, it's like pretty much my favorite weapon in the game, and when I shoot a guy in the head with a bow and arrow, he's down. He's not getting back up. When infected, it can, especially with like clickers and things, like even sometimes my arrows would bounce off faceplates and things. If it's just like, I don't know, it just seemed a little unrealistic to me some of the gameplay with
Infected.
infected. But of course, with infected, there's the spontaneity and stuff. Like, I don't know what this guy's going to do. I mean, I have relative ideas. I've heard things that have happened, previous engagements with them. But there's literally no telling what this person is capable of now that they're infected.
The humans, in my mind, it made for a more interesting game. Maybe it was just because I loved Uncharted so much, and I know this. Some people thought that this game was going to be Uncharted with zombies, and it is not at all. I mean, as far as yes, it's cinematic, and yes, it's got gunplay. That's about it. Because other than that, the acrobatics are gone, and some the general tension and flow of the way that they set those games up is vastly different than Uncharted. I think that Naughty Dog, at the end of the game, I don't know the end of the game yet, but I can tell by the way that it's going.
Everybody does.
I can tell by the way that the game is set up that, honestly, if I know that y'all have said, like, wow, what an ending, but like in a bad way. Like you didn't really
love
like it.
to hate. I mean,
love to hate it.
You love to hate it.
I think that they made this game. They didn't care if you love to hate it. You're going to love it so much. You're going to love hating it so much as you play it. Like the things that happen to people.
I
and
think
stuff
they almost set up the ending for a possible sequel.
Well, it's just
Possible.
we're on thin ice. We're on thin ice with the ending and spoilers for Boomstick, but
we spoil for our audience, but we won't spoil.
well, I mean, they have the
Why
option
not?
not
That's
listen.
to listen. Yeah. Let's not go no
Let's
further.
make
Wait
you
until
listen,
they.
though.
Well, let's say not listen. We'll say wait until they
Humans
finish
are
it.
infected. More fun. Which one?
Humans or infected. I gotta say I probably enjoyed killing the infected more.
Really?
Well, I mean, sometimes trying to infect, trying to lure them to a different location was a little harder, I think. Because usually humans, you had to just go right at
We're
them.
curious
Yeah.
creatures.
Yeah,
You
it
go
was
right
it
at
was
them.
it was pretty hard to do all stealth kills in a big group with humans because one tip off and you might as well pull your guns out because it's gonna
He's
be
over here.
Yeah, they're calling out. But I have heard one reviewer say this is some of the best enemy AI in any game, period, and I would pretty much agree. It's up there. All of the human interactions, the infected, are what they are, but as far as the human, the way that they would, Uncharted did it well. It's just further in that. So I like the humans, but what would y'all? Let's see. Last topic. Criticisms. What would you have done better? That sounds pretentious, but
If y'all had control of this,
we
what
have
would you
a
have done?
masterpiece of a game. But what would you have done better?
If you could have done it, how would you
Well,
have done it?
in keeping with the metaphor, I'd say a few more brushstrokes, because we've talked about how certain sections of the wall and the floor don't meet.
I'd say pretty much
And
the
things-
whole game. Throughout the whole game, it was like that.
It was like that. It's little bits, and it didn't really take away from the experience, but I think they
annoyed
just
me.
could have fine tuned it a little bit more.
It annoyed me a lot. that
Well,
they didn't
load
do
times
that.
were very long, so it was graphically intensive just by what you saw.
Well,
but
they
I
even-
think that a lot of that stuff could be fixed via patches later. That may be stuff they just couldn't have. Well, I don't know if they could have foresaw, but Assassin's Creed does the same thing. They put out one a year, and they look gorgeous too. Not maybe as gorgeous, but they look, environmental-wise, they're gorgeous games. And they have seams, and they don't bother me. I play them every year.
No, I'd
I guess
say,
I haven't noticed them as much.
You
but
haven't noticed them as much? They're there.
This is just, it was so dark in places, and then that
Contrast.
kind of
Contrast, yeah. Because
the
there's a lot
light
of,
bleeding
there's a lot of
through.
brightness in Assassin's Creed. You don't notice it so much.
I think the companion AI was a little lacking sometimes. Sometimes, I thought they did a pretty good job overall. A lot of times you have your companion hangs back. They sit there and they explore a little bit. They're not always just, every time you move, they move, like a lot of games are. They're like normal people. They're going to walk around, kind of look at things, while you're trying to figure out how to get to the next place. But there are certain portions in close quarters where they're following right behind you and they're standing right in front of the door. You need to get out or something.
A few times with that, but Ellie never bothered me as far as dying. Like I don't remember her. I never have had her die. Now I think I had one time so far where Henry died, He got caught up. It was in that encounter at the door where you were talking about earlier.
I'm surprised. None of my characters ever died.
Well, that was the only time with him. Like, of course, Joel got killed many times, but
I can't count the times that when I was playing, he died. Yeah,
but one time with a companion, it was him. But I never had Ellie die. She never got in the way during combat. She kind of held her own, or was over here doing her own thing.
No,
but
combat I didn't have a problem with.
I kind of wish there would have been more like, gameplay with other characters besides just Joel throughout, because they could have switched over to Elliot a little.
I think that they wanted that to surprise you because, I don't know. I can't speak for their decision, but they waited that late in the game. They'll finally let you play as her. Maybe it was because she was at that point where she was ready to.
I almost thought Joel was going to die and she's going to take herself the rest of the way.
Well, they set it up to make you think that.
Yeah.
Because
I was like, he's injured. He's going to die.
I guess it's a weakness and a strength, but the game is set up in like seasons, and you go from like fall to winter, and like Joel is injured, and all of a sudden they show up, one state over, and you don't know if he lived or died. They end, I think, from the summer to the spring. They somehow go all the way from Pittsburgh all the way to Colorado with no mention of how they got there, any of that stuff. And maybe it would be something where they could open it up to give you a game in the middle, type thing, where you can have a sequel, you have an in-betweequel. I think they've called it. Yeah, I've heard them say about something before, but.
Well, they had from the prologue to the gameplay, they had a 20-year jump.
Yeah, it's
I
all.
almost thought that was too much.
It's a design decision. And I think it works, but
I almost thought it was too big of a time jump. You talked about this, Quantum.
Yeah.
That it seemed like too big of a time jump. 20 years. I think they could have went 10 at the most.
Well, no. The thing is they wanted Ellie. She's 14. She was born.
Well, they could have changed that around and had her be that same age with him 10 years later.
But they didn't. She would have been born prior. 10 years, 14 years? They wanted it where the world had already been affected, and she was born into this world post apocalypse. 20 years, I never had a problem with it, but that was why. They wanted it. All her perspective is from, and even Sam, too. They're both kids. They were born into this world.
They know nothing else.
They know nothing else but this world. And so they see, stadiums. They don't even know what football is. They
see the
they don't
ice
know about
cream
music.
truck.
The ice cream truck. They don't know what ice cream is.
Yeah,
There's nothing to freeze it.
when you break it down like they did to explain the ice cream truck, it does sound like creepy. They kind of, you look at it like ice cream truck is kind of like a fundamental part of, Americana, like growing
childhood, summertime,
And then you go through this game and towards, the second half of it, you have them explain that ice cream truck, and now you're thinking like they're explaining this way. It does sound weird. I was like, now you're starting to think like someone who's been in
has no exposure to it. Yeah,
has no exposure.
And that's just it. They have no exposure to all these things that we take for granted. They are seeing the remnants of it, and they don't understand it. They're having to sort through our current situation with all the things that are just there, and it really kind of breaks it down to. What's really important? Oh, wait, another thing. I got to say this real quick. Where she goes to the cabin and she finds the girl's diary. You remember that part?
Yeah, it's like,
this
is
awesome.
Really the things they used to worry about?
This is what people worried about. It was like boyfriends and what I'm going to wear and all this stuff. And I thought,
that's stupid.
That really puts everything into perspective.
Well, it almost is kind of like trying to explain something
about us.
You have a child.
Yeah.
Trying to explain something to her from your childhood, and she's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, she doesn't know that.
What are you talking about, Daddy?
And
the poster in the city. I don't know. Sometimes, I think you could skip it, so some people might not saw that.
I didn't skip it,
but
actually.
There's a poster of like a model on the side, and then Ellie looks at it. It's like, wow, she's so skinny. It's like, how they get that way. He's like, well, I thought y'all had plenty of food when y'all were. In the kind of good old days.
Big, yeah.
And then she said, well, some people just chose not to eat it. It's like, well, that's, it's stupid.
I guess I missed
food
that
is a
one.
fundamental part.
Yeah.
I guess I missed that one.
Well, there's lots of little moments like that. You probably, and I guess for any listener too, it's going to be one of those. You're going to play it, and then you're going to want to try to play it again. It's that good of a game.
Some parts
I thought about starting it over. I really did.
Yeah. As far as one of the things that I would have done better, I know what they're going for here, but the level of profanity was just excessive.
It was a
I
little over
have
the top, especially Ellie cussing like a sailor.
when a 14-year-old girl has the worst mouth in the game. I mean, that's just terrible, and it was jarring every time you heard it. Now, I can't knock the game for the quality of game that it is. Naughty Dog are at the top of their game making this. I mean, Uncharted was a great indicator of the quality that you're going to get when you play this game, but the language, I mean, and I'm not meaning to sound like a prude, I'm just saying that it's just, it's to the point where it's just excessive.
When the
And
teenager has the worst mouth out of anybody.
Yeah, well, but I know what they're going for here. Like I said, she was born into this. She's
going
born
for
into
shock and awe is
harshness.
what they're going for.
She's born into harshness, and she doesn't know. She doesn't know couth. I mean, she's probably been around people. This is all they say all the time. So it's just a part of her vernacular. There are no rules. There are no morals.
There's no
mores,
things
there's
you
none of
can't
these
do.
things. Yeah, it's all.
There's nothing you can't say.
Yeah. And that's what she's been raised around. So, I mean, I get it. And no, they didn't have a 14-year-old player. It didn't help to jar me any when it's the little girl off Growing Pains that's saying these things. I'm thinking of her as that little red-headed girl cussing at me like a sailor the whole game. But it's just, I don't know. It kind of got me. The violence, the visuals don't get me. There really wasn't much I don't think there really was any sexual content.
There was maybe that tension between Tess and Joel.
No, there was that little bit. They had a little snippet of it when they're on the drive from Billtown, and she has the magazine.
Yeah.
Oh,
insinuating what Bill was gay, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think so. And you kind of felt a little bit of that too, which I was actually thinking about bringing up was, Bill's partner, and talk about it, and then he really took it hard when he left, and really took it hard when he found out what actually happened to him.
Did y'all find out that he hated him the whole time? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, there was like some vibes there. I don't know, they didn't come out
and then they just here's his porn stash, and it was not women. Yeah, it was a little weird, but I don't know. It was this is a game I can say unequivocally I would not. It is an M-rated game. I would not want any teenager, any kid that I know, to play this game.
Even though some of them probably have.
They probably have. I mean, and they're probably playing it right now as we're recording this. A lot of them, but it's just. I think that if you took a little kid and let them play this, they would be jaded like Ellie by the time that they got done with it.
I'd be like,
just an exposure to the harshness of man. That was one of the biggest things about it is the infected or the infected. It's just showing when you get down, when you strip all of society away, what man really is, and they become animals.
Well, they were. In caveman times, they were animals.
Sin is in the world, and it is always going to be a problem. And you see that whenever you strip all order away, man goes back to those base instincts, and that was one of the biggest things about the game. But I would have toned the language down. That's my main thing, not the graphics or anything like that. They're pushing boundaries on that. I just thought that in the effort to be mature, in some ways they just went too far with the language.
You almost think, what can PlayStation 4 improve upon as far as graphics whenever you see that game?
Basically, when you look at The Last of Us, it's kind of like, okay, PS3, we're out. PS4, this is what you got to do, and that's a big bar.
I'd say the only thing that they might can improve on is probably load times.
Load times, yeah.
Because they're going to have...
the facials and animations on this were great.
It's Beyond... I brought it up because I can't
remember.
Beyond
is PS3.
Beyond is PS3? Okay,
it comes in October 29th.
That looks good too, but yeah, it looks really good.
Beyond right now is the best looking game I've seen.
I've got to say...
mainly though, because it's looking at... It has real actors in it, and you kind of know the bar that they're working on with who they are. You know Willem Dafoe, and you know Ellen Page.
I've got to bring this up.
Yeah.
About the whole, how Ellie almost looks like Ellen Page.
I actually have information on that. I looked at that.
I saw
someone brought that up to her in an interview
yeah.
and said, how do you feel about? And they kind of
starring in two Sony games.
Right. No, they kind of brought it up. It's like how they kind of made you look a little, made Ellie look a little like you, at least kind of resemblance. And she said, basically all came down to her saying, I didn't appreciate it.
but she has since, like, I didn't read the article or something that said that, like, she has no hard feelings about it or anything like that.
Well,
I never saw that.
That was there too, but I mean,
Yeah.
The gist I got from what she was saying was, Naughty Dog, they didn't have my approval, and I didn't like that.
no, I just
I think originally she was going to be Ellie.
I don't
But
know
then
if
she
it-
backed
no,
out.
They would have said that in the stories, but I don't think that it was. But I mean, it's pretty
They
obvious.
modeled her after
If you
her
want,
at the beginning.
I mean, just think of the way that she talks and carries herself, like in Juno, and that's Ellie. I mean, that is so. I mean, it's
Without
pretty much-
Prego.
Yeah, without being pregnant, yeah. That's pretty much Juno, the way she talks, the way she walks, all that stuff. She's
ponytail.
Juno, yeah. So,
even had the ponytail.
they actually, I
Even
think,
had the
went in and redesigned the game, though, to distance it from her, though.
But
Because
it
originally,
still
when they
looked
first
like
announced
her,
it,
and
it
almost
looked like
sounded
Ellen Page, yeah, but...
Well, it still looks like her and sounds like her a little bit.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, that's just a voice actress. They picked somebody with a similar-sounding voice and all, but...
I think that they probably did that for a reason.
Yeah, they can't just completely wash their hands of that. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
What are you
With a nice,
talking about?
like coy smile.
Well, and Joel was played by Troy Baker, who's been doing a lot of voice work in a lot of other games. He's not quite to Nolan North's level, who did Drake on Uncharted, but from the look of him, he looked to me like Nathan Drake with a beard, but older. I mean, he's
Joel?
Yeah, he really did. And there was another character in the game that was that
Indiana
reminded
Jones
me.
2.0.
No, there was somebody in the game that to me that looked like Sully. I can't remember, but it was.
Well, was it somebody at his brother? No, you haven't got to his
Yeah,
brother.
yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, but I can't remember who it is. It's not
It's
important.
hard to keep up with like the
It's hard to keep
chronology.
chronology of it, especially in one playthrough. But if you had to put a numeric score to the game, what would you say? Out of 10.
Out of 10? Are we going with a preconceived notion that there is no perfect game? Or is it just based on what a game
If you
is?
ask most reviewers, that's a perfect game. Because, I mean, Metacritic,
Yeah, I mean,
100% is the majority.
yeah, if we're given just, what it could have been versus what it is, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. I would say it was that good, they put that much work in it, that much detail. The acting was there, the graphics were there.
I would agree
everything.
with saying it's a masterpiece. I mean, I've heard that being thrown around. Game of the year, hands down, those type of comments. But if I had to knock it for any kind of graphical hiccups, I would say a 9.8, 9.9, but I would give it a 10.
If those things were fixed with patches, like those minor details we
right.
talked about, it would be a 10 all the way.
I thought you were going to go like the Russian judge is not amused 6.
Oh, it's a soft 6.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I told y'all about that earlier. Metacritic, you've got like 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, all the way down. And you've got some 90s, you got some 80s. You may even have, I think you have like a low 80 in some of them. So basically a 4 out of 5, which is still a good scoring game. And all of a sudden you got somebody at the bottom that says it's a 60.
That's a troller. Somebody just trolling.
No, but I mean, this is a professional review, or at least it's counted in the professional critic reviews. And it's like, did you play the same game I played?
Right?
But
I saw a picture. It was
Whatever.
on Facebook. Somebody moved into their new house. They set up their TV and they had a stool, and The Last of Us little, was on the screen. I'm like, yep, that's all you need at your new house. Is
that's all you need, huh?
The Last of Us.
Any other things y'all want to bring out before we close?
I got nothing.
I got nothing.
Right.
Oh, I got another.
Right. Last of Us needed more helicopters. More helicopters.
More explosions.
More cowbell. You gotta have more cowbell, baby.
Come on.
Right?
Living in the van down the
Right.
river.
Last of Us 2, written by Michael Bay.
Starring Christopher Walken. But it was a great game. I gotta say that. We'll get back to the ending, discussing the ending probably in the next
Everybody
podcast.
Everybody does.
Everybody
Hey,
dies.
hey, in the comments of this, count how many times I say everybody does. And
You
then,
can't count everybody else saying it, too. It's just you.
just me. How many times Gandyman says everybody dies at the ending? Alright. Let's keep
All
that
right.
in mind.
Okay.
Alright.
Well,
Whatever.
closing out podcast, I'm Boomstick,
I'm Quantum.
Gandyman.
and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks.